Welcome back to John Lee Stories, Season 6, Episode 1. This is the only podcast where the interviews are reimagined into illustrations. Now, on this episode we had Adam. Adam is a minister and a skateboarder. You combine those two things, you get a little place down in Oregon called Base Plant Ministries. And it's a great little place if you love to skate and you're going to get a little bit of Christianity combined together. Nice little safe haven people. Me personally, not into any religion. I don't care what it is, not my thing. But if you're not hurting anyone, you're having a good time, you do you. Couldn't care less. What I do like is having conversations with people from different perspectives. So we got to have a great conversation, a bit of push and pull. No one trying to convince anyone anything, but just sort of like stating our piece, and that was really rad. Also, the illustration that I created had a little Jim Phillips essence to it. Not as good as his art. His art's ridiculously good. But I was also just able to pull out a little bit of that, and that was a really fun piece to sort of create. And I hope you guys like it. So let's jump into the interview. Boosh!
I think I have a problem with hand sanitizer. Like I'll shake someone's hand, and while they're watching, I'll like put hand sanitizer on my hands, and I'm like, I probably shouldn't do this while I'm right in front of you.
You're watching. Well, I guess it's better if you going like, yep, good job, yep.
Totally. So
but
funny.
do you get sick though?
Yeah, a couple times a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's really not working that well.
Right. So I think the social interaction's a little more important then.
Then you're like 3 times a year being ill.
Yeah.
So you're down in Oregon?
Yes, Medford.
Medford. Now, my understanding, I think I have a mate that lives in Medford. Is that the fancy place?
That's probably Ashland or
Oh,
Jacksonville.
Okay. Oh, okay. So my wife went to University of Portland.
Mm-hmm.
And the only things I know about Portland, because I was there for, I came over to propose to her for a month. But basically I stayed at her university and I've just brought my skateboard and I went to Burnside. And mind you, Burnside's intimidating. And then I went to just pubs around her and just got drunk and hung out. So my knowledge of Portland is actually like kind of small, just from like driving down there and like little things. I spent a month there, but I really just spent a month in her bedroom, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Yeah. So what's how far away from you from Burnside?
From Burnside, from Portland, we're about 4 hours.
Oh shit! Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. We just moved back from Portland though.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, we went up there so my wife could finish school, and then
cool.
we moved back down to Medford.
What was your wife doing for school?
Dentist.
Oh, fun! Like being an actual dentist.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Pearson.
Oh wow, awesome! So she just.
Brutal.
Here's the thing. Dentists and mechanics are like the same thing. I don't know what's happening inside my mouth. Does she just pry in there and be like, ting, ting, ting? Oh, yeah, you definitely need a new set of tires on this one.
Well, that's a funny thing. She's actually, she's kind of like I am, a pretty personal person.
Yeah.
Dentistry can definitely be like selling cars.
Yeah.
And you feel it, when you sit down and someone just looks in and they're like, well, you just need this, $5,000, and they're up and you're gone.
Yeah.
My wife doesn't do that. She'll sit down and she looks at the x-rays and she shows you, and then she gives you options, and everyone's like stamping their feet like, you're taking too long, and she's like, nope, this is how I do it.
Yeah.
And she's caught flack for it, but she also makes more sales than the other doctors. So they're like, wait a second, you take longer, but you're making us more. Like, what's your secret? And one doctor actually asked her, he's like, how do you sell so much treatment?
Yeah.
And she looked at him and she said, I'm not selling treatment. I'm talking to people and showing them what they should do and what they can afford.
Yep.
And they're like, whoa, that's novel.
Yeah. I was just at the dentist a couple of weeks ago, and they're like, oh, yeah, we're all good. We could replace... 6 months ago, they just replaced another crown, and they're like, "Oh, we could replace this crown over here. I think you really need." I'm like, "You're not getting me for another $1,000. I'm good. It doesn't hurt. I'm riding this thing out."
Sure. As long as it's not hasn't failed.
Nah, it's feeling fine. It just throbs and... No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't.
Like there's just oozing and pus.
Yeah, if there's a pus
but I
squirt.
swallow it.
Yeah. It's good. I'm a little bit sick all the time, but it's fine.
Right.
I have indigestion. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, well, let's get into it.
Yeah.
So, how do you really feel?
Hang on. So I wanted to ask, but the Medford, 4 hours away, is that down near Oregon State University or anything like that?
So it pretty much goes Portland at the top,
Yep.
Eugene, Corvallis in the middle.
Yep.
And then Medford and Ashland, very southern
okay.
Oregon.
Is Medford or Ashland the one that has the Shakespeare Festival?
Ashland, yeah.
Ashland. Oh shit! What does Medford have going on for it? Just you?
Well, yes, it does. What's Medford? Medford's like maybe a Tacoma.
Oh.
Or, it's kind of a melting pot.
Yep.
It's, let's see. Well, we got the Ginger Rogers Theater here. It's kind of hard to make it in Medford unless you have like an income stream. If you come here just trying to find work,
Oh yeah.
it can be difficult for people.
Yeah. That was like my own my hometown back in Australia when I was growing up. Like it was a beautiful place, but if you didn't have an inn or some sort of way to find a revenue stream, like it was hard to just find a job that was like decent paying kind of thing.
Yeah,
It was like the most unemployment town, like that was a certain sized city in all of Australia at one point. So
a lot of suburbs there.
there was a lot of suburbs. It's also where I'm from is there's Perth, which is like 5 hours away from Sydney, and it's known as the most isolated capital city in the world. Like it's, and then I was like an hour and a half south of that. So when you got your main hub here, and there's only 2 million people in a state that is the size of Oregon, Washington, and California put together, then you've only got like I think Los Angeles has 8 million people or something like that, 18 million people maybe. And so where 2 million people is just not enough to sort of like have big industry, but there's a lot of like minings and stuff like that. So
Right.
anyway,
So that you guys have kangaroos in your backyard then and riding crocodiles to work kind of thing?
well, we surf them. We don't ride them. All right. Adam, you ready to jump in these 10 questions?
Yeah, heck yeah.
Heck yeah. All right. So you were actually the first guest of season 6. Sorry. So there's new questions. So I've got to keep them here, so I can't keep them off the top of my brain. Are you a early bird or a night owl?
I'm an early bird to read. I'm a night owl when I'm death scrolling.
Oh, yeah. Death scrolling does make...
Dude.
Do you know what I've replaced death scrolling with? I'm going through a part where I'm obsessed with solitaire on my phone.
Okay.
So I'm just like getting these like small fixes. Yeah, get this. Like, means nothing. There's no win at the end of it. I lose most of them. But
Right.
anyway, what do you mean you're an early bird to read? Do you get up at like 6 in the morning and read a book? What?
Yeah, I'm a Bible guy. If I'm not up in the morning to do that, I won't get to it. We got kids, work. So
Oh wow.
just got to do it, make it happen.
So you read the Bible every morning, like a section of it, obviously. Like,
I'd say 4 or 5 days out of the week.
oh wow, okay, cool. That's dedication.
It's funny for me to even say that because, given when I'm growing up and stuff, I would never picture myself doing that. But seriously, things change.
Yeah. All right. So what changed? Like, there's a question here: what you do to pay the bills? Like, is that gonna jump into that? Like, are you a full-time minister or?
Let's see. Where to start? Okay, well, a quick background.
Yep.
Like skateboarding and just growing up. I grew up here. I was born in Ashland.
Yep.
And grew up here in Medford. And we moved around a bunch. But when I was 10, my stepdad, who raised us, he had a heart attack and died.
Oh, dang.
So my brother and I, he was 4 years older, we went to New York to stay with my real dad so my mom could kind of get her feet on the ground because it just rocked her world. So we went there to visit my real dad, and while we were there, he died. So stepdad and real dad both dead within 6 months.
What?
And it threw my mom into just chaos. And, you know, she's never been the same person.
Yeah.
She looked at different various substances to cope.
Yep,
you know,
yep.
and I fell in love with skateboarding.
Did you fall in love with skateboarding in New York or in Medford?
I always wanted to skateboard when I was younger. I called them the fat boards. Like, I don't want a Nash, Mom. I want a fat board.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But actually, what I fell in love with skateboarding, I lived on this hill, and I remember looking out one day, and this was in the 80s, and there was a guy on an old, like, Rod Roscop or some old... Anyway, he was tic-tacking up the hill. And I was like, you can do that?
Oh, yeah. I
like,
remember that feeling.
You can skate uphill and not even touch the ground? And it was just infatuation from that point.
Yeah.
But when my dad died, that summer, I went and stayed with some friends over in North Carolina, and my mom sent me some money to buy a skateboard, and I got old Skull and Sword, paddleboard.
Oh, yeah.
Some Gold Wings and some slime balls, and I was hooked, in love. That was my first board, and it got stolen.
Oh, no. So, my first board that I would consider my own board was a Powell pool bomber with the flames on it that I got as a birthday present or something like that. And I got so into skateboarding, and I transitioned from that board to a regular size paddle pop double kick kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I gave that board to someone else, and I just wish I held on to that board. Like, I just wish I did.
Yeah.
That's not my biggest regret, but one of them.
Right. Isn't it funny thinking back, like all the stuff you had, like, gosh, man, I had no idea that stuff was so special. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And skateboarding at that time was going through so many transitions.
Yeah.
To like, remember when our wheels were like almost just bearings?
So I am just past that. So as I said, I grew up in a podunk surf town. And I knew how to skateboard around, but tricks weren't... I was like 16 once I picked up a skateboard and I was walking back to my house, and my sister's friends were skating. It was raining, and they were skating in the under carport of our neighbor's yard, and he goes, "Hey, Matt, watch this," and he almost does a kickflip. He goes, "You should try one." And I almost landed it, and it was from that point I was like, bang, I'm a skateboarder. And then I just rapid fire started, like, everything I could do was him. I was still surfing and stuff like that, but all I could think about was skateboarding. Mm-hmm. And so I missed that 90s section. My pool bomber, I was the opposite. I had big chunky wheels on my first one, and then my stepdad, he skated, but he was definitely in that 80s. He had super tight trucks. So I was like, okay, I skate super tight trucks and all this, even though I was trying to do all really technical stuff, like a Rodney Mullen Day One song, those ones. Yep. That was one of my favorite videos sort of at that time. Around sort of 96 to 2003-ish, you know what I mean?
That was girl era, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Did I love girl skateboards? Yeah.
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 Weren't those fun videos?
So fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like even now, like I'm just like, has skateboard, like I know people bring out videos and obviously it's a younger generation that's really looking at these videos and they've all got different things going on. Like there's a big scene in Europe that they bring out really fun videos, but part of me is like, all these brands, like do something really like different together.
So when we have skate night every Thursday, 5 to 7:30, and I got a screen.
Oh, okay, hang on. Let's go step back. So we keep that thought.
Okay.
Let's go jump into what do you do for a living, and then like bring that in because I feel like we're going to bounce back and forth, and let's go do that. So what do you do to pay the bills?
Well, I'm a contractor, so I build houses and remodels and stuff. I'm kind of folding it up a bit so we can grow Base Plant. That's what this ministry is, Base Plant Ministries.
Well, can you? But I sort of know what it is because we've been chatting a little bit. Do you want to let everyone else know what it is?
Well, so it's pretty much skate church. When I moved up to Portland when I was right after high school, and met some guys up there, and we were skating downtown. You can't really skate where we were. It was down at Waterfront Park, and it was the hub. It was like the Embarcadero of downtown Portland.
Yep.
And it was all brick too. It was just fun. But so I met some guys there, and they just said, "Bro, you just need to move up here." And I thought, there's no reason not to. So moved up with some of those guys, and we just skated. I mean, ate, drank, slept, skateboarding until one of my roommates, he actually owned a snowboard company. And so we would go ride Mount Hood and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And snowboarding became a big part of life too, because skateboarding is skateboarding. It's its own deal. But snowboarding, you can fly, you can fly, bro.
You can fly. So I didn't get into snowboarding until I was like 27, and now, I see the guys doing like jumps, and I'm not even talking like the huge jumps where someone's doing like the 2160 cork that someone did a while back. Just even like the regular people doing jumps over the big jumps, I'm like, that's too fast for me. That's too fast. How do you go about that? Are you bombing and doing these big kickers? And
I did, but it's funny. My mentality changed. I was sitting up on a ski lift once with this older couple. They must have been in their 70s, and they were skiing, and I was snowboarding. And we were going up, and I was all pumped up, like, "Yeah, you guys just ripping it today," whatever. And the lady looked at me. She goes, "We're just skiing so that we can ski another day." And I was like, I'm going to ride so I can ride another day.
Wow.
So I bring a bunch of youth group kids up and stuff, and we'll snowboard. But, I love going fast. I love jamming. But when it comes to the parks and stuff, like, I'm not looking, I have enough victories in my life. I don't need somebody else to,
That's an interesting take on it. I hadn't thought about it that way.
I don't need the accolades, and I don't need a metal bar on my chest.
Oh yeah, I don't do any of the rail snowboarding. Like I'm like, fuck that. There's no. I think it's because my brain's so in skateboarding that I know the feeling that something's fucking away, and I can bail out of it a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
And snowboarding, my brain doesn't have that mentality of how to get out of it.
Well, sometimes you can.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you can't skateboarding as well, but right. I have more body parts to try and save my robotic self as I'm landing.
Yeah.
But so you moved back up to Portland.
Okay, moved to Portland, and just kind of started going crazy up there. We were just jackasses. I mean, in fact, the movie Jackass and those guys. So Aaron McGeegee, or Danger Aaron.
Oh yeah.
He was pretty much one of our roommates.
Oh wow.
We were just, that's how we lived, and I just started going crazy, and then the whole turn of events with God and stuff, and I've just got to get away from everything.
So hang on, let's sit in that part just for a second there. What makes you go, bang? Like, I'm not religious at all, so this is like, I had like a small stint when I was 12, but it always amazes me, whether it's religion, whether it's quitting something or doing something, like how people make that choice. So you're going through all these like crazy party times. I'm sure it's an amazing time, right? You're sure you're having highs and lows, but you're having like pretty party times.
Yeah.
What happens that makes you click into religion?
Well, so, just going crazy up there, having fun. And then I just start thinking, like, I don't respect any of these people.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
When I look around at these 50-year-old, 40-year-old dudes at parties that are still picking up on 15-year-old girls, or even at the college stuff, it's like, where are the men? Where are the men? Where are the men? And I couldn't. And so I started going insane, and I started reading like different books, and then it's a crazy thing. So I started locking myself in my bedroom. Like, my friends would pound on the door, like, "Hey man, we found a party," and I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm not into it." And one of my friends, Chris, he's like, "Adam doesn't like his friends anymore," and I'm like, "No, that's not it." And so I was just kind of going crazy. So even suicidal, I was thinking, like, gosh, nobody knows what really happens when you die. And if the meaning of life is just to get married and have kids and have a career in cars, and if you're lucky, a boat, and luckier you get a plane or a helicopter or whatever, and it's all just pretty much to show off or just to entertain yourself, I was like, why not just cut it short? Like, there's why go through all this stuff in life when it's meaningless? And it's funny because I've said that to...
How old are you when you're having these thoughts?
20.
20, okay.
Yeah. So, and it's funny, I've said that to a few different people, and they're like, man, I used to think the same thing. So I'm laying in my bed in my room up in Portland, and I went to bed early this one night, and I wake up, I sit up, and in my room by myself, I just say, you know what? I'm going to Medford this weekend. And I looked at the clock, it said 8:30, and I just laid back down. So that weekend came, woke up at like 6, jumped in my car, drove down here, got here about 10, and just thought, crud, what am I going to do now? Like, all my friends have moved away, my mom doesn't live here anymore. And I said, I thought, I'm going to go say thank you to my best friend Andy Cowan's parents. Because they knew that it was chaos at my house growing up.
Yep.
And so they would let me come over and stay with them a bunch, and they'd take me camping with them and like do Christmas with them. And they didn't like me though. I mean, just a smart aleck street kid, foul mouth, perverting their good son. But so he was just tall, mellow, just a super good skateboarder, just the coolest style, very like Eric Costin-y.
Oh.
And I was just kind of this little foul-mouthed rat, and we were a good mix. We'd pull each other, So anyway, I thought, you know what? His parents, now that I understand a little bit about life, like, his parents went out of their way for me. So I'm just going to go say thank you. So I drove to their house, and I hadn't seen Andy for years. He was living in San Francisco with all these pros and filming all the time, and I thought, he was living the high life. And so I went to knock on his parents' door, and lo and behold, Andy opens it. And I'm just like, whoa, what are you doing here? He goes, I just moved back a couple days ago. I'm like, no way. So it was like this reunion. It was really neat.
Oh, cool.
So I go into his parents' kitchen, and we sit down and, raiding the fridge and just doing what kids do at the parents' house, and sitting on the counters. And I was just asking him what it was like living down in San Francisco, and, hooked up with pros. And I don't know if he was sponsored himself, but he started telling me, he's like, I don't know, man, it was kind of weird. Like, he's like, I felt like I was living with a bunch of children. And I looked at him, and because I was jiving with what he was saying. He goes, man, all these guys would just, they'd call their sponsors up and be like, I need wheels, man, I need wheels. And they'd get the wheels, and then they would just sell the wheels to get some weed. And
Yeah.
he's like, it was just cheap. Turn off my ringer. And I was tracking with him, and he said, did I lose you?
No, you're good. I'm listening. I'm just listening.
Oh, my FaceTime thing turned on. So I'm just tracking with him, and he goes, tell you the truth, man, I was just kind of going insane. Like, I was looking around, and I was just like, gosh, where are the men at? And I looked at him, and I'm like, I didn't say anything, but I was like, man, I'm thinking the same thing. And he said, I just kind of needed to get out and come back and kind of regroup. I was like, all right. And he's like, so I bought a Greyhound bus ticket, and I was waiting for the bus, and I sat down on this curb in front of this coffee shop, and he's like, and I just put my face in my hands, and I just started crying. And this guy's like a big 6'3", and he's a manly man. And I was just like, yeah. And he says, and I looked up, kind of wiped my face, and he said he was looking, and this guy rolled by him on a 10-speed bike, and they kind of made eye contact, and Andy looked down again, and then Andy looked up, and the guy had pulled around and was standing right next to him. And the guy says to him, he says, hey, man, you all right? And Andy's just like, yeah, dude, I'm all right, I'm fine. And the guy goes, well, I don't know what you're dealing with, but I know you need Jesus Christ. And Andy's like, bro, I know all that stuff. Like, I'm just not into it. Like, thanks for saying. And the guy's like, I'm not going to push him on you. But what I want you to know is when you're alone and you have nowhere else to go, if you give your life to Christ, you'll find it. And Andy's like, what do you mean? And they started talking. And it turned out this was the real guy, like not just some weirdie. And this guy had actually got saved, became a Christian, sold everything, bought a bicycle, and now he rides around from town to town preaching the gospel. Like, I don't know where he's at now, but this is the guy that met Andy.
Probably with massive thighs, I imagine.
Totally. So Andy's like, you know what? Maybe I'll go with this guy. Maybe I'll do what you're doing. That sounds exciting. And Andy said he just felt it, like it was overwhelming. Like, no, you go home. And Andy's just like, okay. So he just got on the bus, came home, and he's telling me this story while we're sitting in his parents' kitchen. And I was just like, what the heck? And he just looked at me and got serious. And he said, Adam, I got something to tell you. And I'm like, oh no, you're gay or what? And he goes, I gave my life to Jesus. And I was like, and it was just crazy because the storm that was going on in my head of all of the this and that's and what abouts, and all of a sudden it was like it's instantly quiet in my head. And I said, Andy, I've been looking everywhere else other than where I should be looking. And I just knew it. Like, he goes, here's the crazy thing, bro. He says, I came home, I got in my parents' house. I went to bed early the other night, and I just got on my knees and said, okay, Jesus, if you're real, you can have my life. And he's like, and dude, I felt it. I was forgiven. And he goes, and the very first prayer I ever prayed was, oh God, please let me tell this to Adam. And I said, you said that? And he's like, yeah, dude. And I'm like, when did you say that? He's like, that night. I'm like, what night? He said, I don't know, it was a couple nights. It would have been Wednesday. I'm like, what time? He goes, I don't know, I went to bed kind of early, so it's like probably 8:30 or so. And I was like, dude, I was in a dead sleep Wednesday at 8:30, and I sat up in my room and said out loud, I have to go to Medford this weekend, and went right back to bed. And it was like these weird confirmations. It's like, okay. And so I just started like talking to God. And remember I was seriously wrestling. I was walking on this path next to this lake, and I was just like, okay, Jesus, I love who you are. But the whole Christians thing, the music and the conversations and the debates and just the bigotry and the heresy, and I can't be one of them. I just can't do it. And it was weird. It was almost, it felt like the Lord said to me, I don't want you to be one of them either. You follow me. And I just remember thinking like, well, I mean, I can do that, but I don't know what that's going to look like. And so it was funny, I went and I actually hiked up there's a place called Table Rock here, and I stood on this cliff, and I just kind of started yelling like, okay, I get it. If you could use a scumbag like me, you can have my life. And it was crazy. Like right then, the wind came up, right up the cliff face, and I seriously heard a voice in the wind. And I heard this whisper, and it was, no one's going to believe you. I was like, what the hell? And then the wind came this way, and I heard this other voice, your family's going to disown you. And it was crazy. And then the wind came this way, and I heard, someone's going to call the cops on you. And I was like, call the cops? That's the stupidest thing I've ever... And all of a sudden I realized, it's like God gave me a split second of getting to hear like what's going on in the other realm. And I realized, wow, a lot of these things that I'm thinking really aren't my thoughts. Like we are being influenced by whispers. And I was just like, I can hear that. And then it was gone. And I was like, I'm in. And so I just grabbed a Bible and just every tape, every sermon, every study I could go to, and just started eating it up. And I would just skate and snowboard and read and skate and snowboard and read, and got a job. I wanted to get a job training horses, but it didn't work out, and the guy was having his house built, and so I started helping the guy build his house, and that just exploded. So I've just been building ever since.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So this is not to push back or anything like that. So why... So we are in a Christian nation, right? There's a lot of other things, but let's be honest, that the
founding, yeah.
The founding, but the influence, I would say, around it. Do you think, what would happen if you had someone in India or someone in China or someone in Peru? Are they going to have similar, influences, experiences? You don't see people go, hey, I woke up and I heard the thing of Christianity come and speak to me. You get what I mean? So. I
do, and it's a really viable question, and that's probably the next thing. What about everybody else? Because if it's right for you and it should be right for everyone, then doesn't everyone get a chance? Doesn't everyone get? And so the best part about God is that at his core, he's good, and he's humble, and
humble's a pretty strong word, because can't you not praise anyone else but him?
Well, so in his words, praying to anybody else, any other god, any other deity, is demonic. I mean, that's it. That's his words.
Yeah, but that's not very humble, because you've got other people that pray to other religions and are good people.
Yeah. Okay. But so these religious people came to Jesus, and they were kind of harping on him too. And he said, listen, I'm saying these things so that you'd be saved. And I'm telling you the truth. If I didn't tell you the truth, I'd be a liar like you are. But I'm telling you, this is how it is. So, but he also says, I want you to respect other people. He's like, but I'm not gonna pull back and not let you know that I really am the creator, the singular creator. God's never up in heaven like, I don't know, maybe they're right. Maybe all these other stories are true, and maybe I didn't make everything. He never does that. He is who he is.
Well, I'm not here trying to push back. I'm here trying to listen to your story as well. But from a perspective, you're saying you're speaking for God when he's sitting up there doing all this stuff, right?
So I'm paraphrasing biblical
that was
quotes.
written by man, correct?
Yeah, but when that's what God has chosen. A pen doesn't write a book. The author uses a pen to write a book.
But he also gave man free will.
Totally.
So they could have made mistakes or embellished or...
They could have, and that's one of the reasons why the Jewish community is, or Israelis or Jews, or should be seriously praised for their meticulous writing or preservation of scriptures, like a scribe. Those guys, those are crazy. I mean, they didn't have books; they had scrolls, right?
Yeah.
And so when they would copy a scroll, if they would even mess up on a period, a comma, or make a T wrong, or a bet, or aleph, or whatever, they would take the whole scroll and get rid of it. It had to be meticulously perfect every time. And so that's one way that God's word has been preserved over the years. But the great thing is I mean, when you look into it, if you want to get deep into it, there is no other book, there are no other writings in the world that have so many ancient writings or copies of or writings about that back up the claims. I mean, it's just, you can drown in it. It's actually kind of exciting if you want to go that far.
There's other theories that there's past books that have influenced the stories in the Bible, both first and second, right?
Of course. I mean, and if you think about it, I mean, if you don't scrutinize the Bible, so if the Bible claims that this is the only way to God, that this is the only way to heaven, then the Bible better be ready to be scrutinized and analyzed, and there's never been a book in history which has been focused on so much to prove it wrong. And the Bible's it's like this anvil, and all these people come, they're like these little hammers, and they're like, well, what about this? And the hammers just wear out, and this anvil just stays there.
I think you and I might disagree on that, but that's totally fine.
I understand.
Yeah, I think I would be. I don't want to be. That's the thing. I'm not trying to say that whatever you believe, you believe. I couldn't care less what anyone else does, as long as it doesn't impact anyone else. You get what I mean?
That's a good religion.
So, well, it's not. It's just. As long as you're not hurting anyone, do you? As long as you just. Whatever it is, like I believe at the end of existence, bang, I was lucky to be here for whatever amount of time I've had, right?
So there's no purpose for your life.
Is there a purpose for an ant?
Oh yeah, I mean look at if you play chess.
Yep.
The goal of chess, in a sense, is to get to the king on the other side.
Yeah.
Now, if you play chess and you have no goal, then you're just moving pieces, losing pieces, getting frustrated. You don't have the goal in mind. But if you know that my goal is to get to the king, then all of a sudden your whole life changes, your strategy changes, everything changes. Losses make a difference because.
But why
now
that
it's
game? That game. Why reference that game in particular?
Well, because life is messy, and so is chess.
Yeah. Well, in chess, like there's what's an infinite amount of moves. No one game has been replicated, is what they say, right?
Okay.
And so, if every person has a certain purpose to get to there, why is there still a billion other people that don't believe that one God? So they're playing a different game, is what I'm sort of saying, in that they might have a different purpose for because someone wrote that. They have all some of the religions in China are way older than Christianity. The Native Australian people have been around a lot longer than Christianity, and they've got their own belief system there. So I don't why would God not speak to them directly when there was less people?
You know, it's interesting. There's, thousands and thousands of these people right now in Iran, Afghanistan, and all these Muslim countries that are all becoming Christians because of dreams. It's crazy. Like I listened to one girl's testimony. She's just like, I was just praying like, Allah, I just want to know you. I want to experience you. I want to live for you. And she went to sleep. And then I guess in her words, an angel or Jesus or some form met her and said, hey, your heart is right.
So how did you come across this information?
There's a book.
Who wrote the book?
I would have to.
So
all you have to do, just Google it. Just be like.
But that's the thing. Is like
Muslims getting saved by dreams.
I have a couple of really religious friends that have converted, and just like you had, we grew up in maybe different, and they would send me. They don't do it anymore, but they would send me stuff, and I'd be like, it feels like propaganda. Like you're telling me something that doesn't have some sort of evidence background of it, of like this is someone wrote a book or told me this story, and now it's that. Cool for you for having your faith based and everything like that, but I can't buy into that sort of thing like that.
Well, shoot, I'm not. I haven't started biting. I haven't started. And that's the thing is when we first talked.
Yeah.
You were saying that you didn't want your show to necessarily go religious, because it's, and I fully understand and respect that. But if you want to talk about it, then
I knew that we're going to dabble in it. I just didn't want didn't want it to be like every question. Like I've had interviews before, and like the person's like where I would ask, "What do you do to let off the steam?" Like that's a future question, and someone might say, I just sit down and pray. And I'm like, well, you're not praying 24/7. Like, I'm looking for you as a person. So I've had that, and I scrapped that interview. I didn't, because it just was like, it didn't feel authentic. It was just like, that's all I was sort of saying. I didn't want. I knew there was going to be a bit of back and forth conversation, and that's totally fine. And I'm not saying that, as I said before, I couldn't care what you do, but I'm also going to be authentic to myself because my wife hates it. People hate it around me. I'm always pushing back on stuff I don't.
Sure.
That thing. So this is not at you. This is just sort of like in this conversation role. I wouldn't be authentic to myself if I was just nodding my head, going, "Sure, that sounds like cool." So I'm not trying to bite your head off or anything like that.
No. I mean, I expected it, but also, in Isaiah, God says through Isaiah, He says, "Come, let's reason together. Come ask me your questions. Let's go through it. Let's work this out."
But you don't get to just chat to God. Let's say how many Christians are in the world?
I don't know. It's about 8 billion people. I mean, how many, I'm talking born again people who love the Lord, aren't weirdies. I don't know.
What's a weirdy compared like?
A weirdy is like
like what's that church that goes and protests outside of
West Baptist.
yeah, and I feel like they get a lot more notoriety because of the crazy things they do.
And so here's the thing: is no matter what kind of church, what kind of affiliation, you're going to have wheats and weeds all together. Mm-hmm. And that was one of my big things was, God, I just can't be one of them. And he doesn't want us to follow other people. He wants us to follow him.
So if you are like him, but you got the word of the Bible, and then you get to people, this is what people pick and choose what they, out of the Bible, what they want to, right? Like, I think in one part, you're not meant to mix certain fabrics.
That's in the Old Covenant, the Old Testament, yes.
But
that's for the priesthood only.
That's only for the priesthood?
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole nother thing, but let's jump down that rabbit hole.
We should get together after this. I'll come up and get some coffee.
I'm not driving 4 hours down.
Yeah, I'll drive up there. Shoot.
Now, anyway, okay. I'm not as well versed in that stuff as you, but I feel like the hard part from a perspective from the out, and especially having so much influence, and this is also in Australia as well. I'm not talking about just America, but America is definitely, as American does all things, they make it a super gulp. You know what I mean? Like, it's bigger, stronger. Like, everything's more intense here. Like, everyone.
Do you guys have super gulps over there?
No, no, not at all.
Super gulp, 64 ounces of soda.
Yeah,
it's American.
It's so American. So, like, in America, I feel like we say everything's bigger in Texas. Where when you come from Australia and you're like, oh, this isn't a joke. Like, going to Costco and you can go buy like a jar this big of like pickled eggs, and you're like,
just mayonnaise.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, that's where I feel like sometimes in America, it's sort of like everything's sort of magnified, and same with like religion. Like, it's so like the TV evangelists, like that have private jets and all this sort of stuff. Like, it's hard to swallow because you're getting inundated with all that stuff. And like, it doesn't matter what we have in this conversation or someone else. I just am not going to believe. But as I said,
that's a great strategy of the devil, though, and the devil's just as real. I mean, think about this. I could give you a stack. If I gave you a counterfeit $13 bill, what would you do with it?
Throw it away.
Right, because there's no $13 bills. It's worthless. People don't counterfeit $13 bills. They counterfeit hundreds and 20s and 50s and 10s and stuff.
But how do I know that you're not a counterfeit then?
Yeah, exactly. So you'd have to have some evidence, right?
Well, yeah, but
you'd have to know. Okay, so one thing that I heard, and I don't know if it's true, but is a lot of bank tellers. What they'll have, if you're a new bank teller, they'll give you a stack of bills. Some of them are counterfeit, some of them aren't, and they just have you run through them. And anything that feels weird, you just set aside. And they just want you to feel it, because a dollar bill is actually made out of cotton. It's not paper.
Yeah.
So it's really the feel, and they can start feeling the counterfeits. And when you can start feeling the counterfeits when you're filing through the right bills and real bills enough, the counterfeits stick out like a sore thumb.
But you're going through something that is tangible, bang, 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 tangible, to something that is faith-based.
I'm archaeological evidence, historical evidence, biblical stuff. That's not faith-based. I'm not like, I believe therefore it's true. No, but if it is true, you should believe it.
That person may have existed, but there's like we're going on stuff like he rose from the dead 3 days later.
Yeah.
We can't get information correct this day and age. You're telling me that people, 2,000 years ago, were like, oh, hang on, I got this story down pat.
Well, that's one of the cool things about the first 4 books in the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, is those are 4 different guys coming from 4 different perspectives, all writing on the same story. Which is great because, I mean, it's what any good police officer will do at, say, an accident. He'll go and he'll interview the different witnesses, and this person will see, oh, no, that guy was coming this way, and this guy's like, well, this was actually happening. So you get this panoramic view by having all these different points of view. So when it comes to, like, did this really happen? Well, extra biblically or outside of the Bible, there's historical writings about these guys who walked with Jesus, and they all were brutally murdered, except one guy. He was boiled in oil and didn't die, so they put him on an island. But they were all brutally murdered. They watched their families raped and pillaged for this story. And you're like, wait a second. You're telling me that these guys would watch their wife, and stuff happen to their kids and stuff happen to them for a made-up thing? They're just like, no, you know what? I've seen him, I've touched him, and I'll die for it. And they did. And through them, through them, and it's spread like wildfire. It's even like in the Roman Colosseums when they were throwing Christians and their families to the lions, and people were just sitting around watching these people getting mauled to death. It was crazy because Christianity actually exploded outside of Rome because of that, because these other people from all these other races and religions were watching this and just like, why would you do that? Why don't you just say Caesar is Lord and then you can worship whatever you want? Like, why would you sacrifice your family? It's worthless. And they would go home back to Africa or back to India or back to all these places and just I can't understand why these people would do this. And as God's working on their hearts, and he starts asking them, well, what about you? What about you? And these people when someone gets saved or born again, it's not an act of the flesh. It's not like, I just made this decision, I looked at the facts, and I put it all together, and I said, you know what, this is the conclusion, that seems right to me. Now, it's a work of God. It's an absolute freaking miracle that people come and say, you know what, Jesus, I'm wicked. I'm wrong. I'm giving it to you. I mean, that's a miracle. I mean, it's a miracle for me to do that. I'd never do that growing up, especially skating.
I feel like there's a lot of quite religious skaters, though. Like even back then there was, but there's a big, especially a lot of skateboarders that went through some stuff back in like the 80s and 90s, and like if they're all like, oh, now I'm like they.
Yeah, Jamie Thomas, Christian Asoy, Lance Mountain, Tim Byrne.
Yeah.
Ray Barbie, yeah. I mean, it's funny, there's this church in Portland, it's called All City Church.
Yeah.
And the pastor is Joe Gruber. He wrote for Vision. And it's just a church full of skaters. It's pretty rad. It's fun.
There's a guy that I have met online through the Nine Club. His name's Derek Brenneman, I think, and he does the graphics or graphics or something like that for Zero Skateboards.
Okay.
And he's quite religious as well, and so he is sort of goes to church with a bunch of those guys as well. it's super rad dude. Like nothing against him. He also has a really cool thing, skateboarding trading cards that he made himself, and he does these like fun caricatures that look like the artist. I can't draw like that, like to try and draw someone that looks like them, like that kind of looks like them, as if someone took like, I don't know, a stick and hit the person and they look all out of shape a little bit.
Kind of like the old G.I. Joe and He-Man characters. Yeah. You're like, that don't look like him.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I draw it. Yeah. But I do think like we'll move past this. As I said, I'm all for people believing what they want to believe, as long as you're not hurting anyone. The one last question I sort of want to have on this is, how do you, how's your skate church work? So when I was a kid, there was a church and a skateboard park next to each other. If you wanted to get in for free, you would go sit through the church seminar, and then they'd let you through the door to the skate park, or you could go pay for it and go in. So how does yours work?
Well, can I answer that question after I give you like the background how it started?
Yeah, of course. Yes, please do.
That might. So, okay, we moved back from Portland, and I was sitting in front of my house one day. School had just started. I got little kids, so they weren't in school yet. And a couple high school skater guys were walking in front of my house, and I was just sitting out there in front on the porch, cup of coffee, Bible in the morning. It was like 8 o'clock or so. And two skate kids were walking by, and they just started throwing gravel at my trailer in my driveway. And I was like, what the heck, dude? And they just kind of ran off, and I was like, whatever. A couple weeks later, same two kids are walking by, and my truck is backed up in my driveway, and they're walking by. One kid looks both ways, and he just goes, wham, and just back knuckles the headlight of my truck in my driveway as they're walking by. And I'm like, what the heck, dude? These guys have, like, targeted my stuff. So I didn't even think about it. I just jumped up. I bolted down there. I caught up with one kid. And he was like, hey, man, it wasn't me. And then the other kid was running off. And he turned around. And I was like, hey, bro, come here. Come talk to me. And he's just like, man, what do you want, man? What do you want to say? And I'm like, just come and talk to me. What do you want? And I just said, bro, just man up. Come here and talk to me. And you could tell it was like fight or flight, and he just finally was like, put his head down and just walked back to me. And, I'm looking at these kids, and I'm like, these would have been my friends in high school.
Yeah, that's the hard thing as a skateboarder.
Oh, yeah.
Growing up, and then like, oh, hey, you're skating that ledge. Oh, what? Like, come on, that's my front yard. And you're like, oh, dang it, I definitely would have done that.
Totally. And so I was like, okay, what am I going to say to these kids? And seriously, it was like the voice of God behind me. I just felt, it doesn't happen that much, but I just felt this, bless these guys. And I looked at these two guys and I just said, do you guys like lattes? And they looked at me and they're like, what? What's a latte? I was like, it's like espresso milk, but I mean, you guys drink coffee at all? And they're like, oh yeah, we drink coffee, yeah. I'm like, okay, I'll make you a deal. I'll make you both a latte to go if you guys leave my stuff alone. And they're like, okay. So they just kind of hung out in my front yard, and I got a golden retriever, and they just wrestled my dog and stuff. I went inside, made up some coffees, and came out and gave it to them. We just started talking, and these would have been my buddies. Mm-hmm. And they kind of started talking about life and what's going on with them. And, one kid doesn't even go home because it's so rough, and the drugs and the alcohol and the abuse and stuff. And I was pretty surprised that he opened up that much. And it just shot me back to when I was a kid. I was just always out skating, and I didn't want to go home. And so they left, and I was just like, gosh, is there anything for these guys? I mean, there was like skate church stuff here in Medford when I was younger, but is there anything now? And so I called up Ken, the guy that used to run the campus life, like skate church here. We're friends now. Like we weren't when I used to go there, because I was always the kid that'd be like, oh, come on, Ken. We just want to skate, dude. We don't want to listen to your propaganda. I'm like, dude, this is bait and switch, Ken. And he's like, no, it's not. You know exactly what we do here. And he's, so anyway, it worked though. And after enough people pouring into my life and enough stuff happening, it worked. And so I called Ken up and I'm like, Ken, man, what would you do? Like, there's nothing going on now. And he goes, I don't know, man. Why don't you just try to find like a little warehouse or a barn or like a garage or something? He said, you put some ramps inside, these guys will come. Mm-hmm. And so this was my prayer. I said, God, you can use any ding dong you want to. You may as well use me. And I kind of just forgot about it. Until I was driving home from lunch with my wife one day, and I looked over and I saw this old gas station that was just nasty, and there was all these homeless people living there, and like bonfires, and you could see like needles on the ground, and like it was dirty. And I was like, dang, look at that piece of crap, man. That thing would be perfect. So I looked online, went to the county stuff, whatever, found the owner. He actually lives right up the street from me. He's an old country singer. Super cool dude. Anyway, I called him up. I'm like, hey man, do you want to sell that place? And he's like, well, yeah, I want to sell it, but no one can buy it. And I said, well, why not? He's like, because it's landlocked. There's no driveway. They built a bridge in front, and then they never gave us access so that you can't legally drive onto that property off the road. And I said, well, I want to do like a skateboard ministry thing. I mean, these guys will skate here. I don't know if we need parking. And he's like, well, can you do that? I'm like, well, let me do some homework. And so I got a hold of the city and the county and ODOT, the Department of Transportation, and said the same thing. And they were all like, well, yeah, you can do that. So I called him back and said, yeah, I want to buy it. And after about a month or so, I skated up to his house, and we were sitting on his back porch. And I gave him an offer that his real estate agent friend told me to offer him. And he's like, oh, man, I can't take that. That's just that's just not enough. He's like, I just can't do that. He's like, where'd you even get that number from? And I said, well, Don McClure, your friend, the agent. He's like, Don said that? Oh, And I said, okay, hey, Marty, here's the thing. You want terracotta tile in your kitchen, right? He's like, well, yeah. Because we talked about doing some work at his house, too. And I said, what if I went ahead and just I'll just tile your whole kitchen, everything you want. You don't have to think about it. And I'll give you the full asking price as well. He's like, can we do that in a contract? And I'm like, yeah, it's our contract. We can do whatever we want. We'll write it in. And he's like, and his wife is sitting, we're on the back porch. She's like crocheting in a rocking chair. She just looks over and she goes, come on, honey, it's for the children. And so he's like, by golly, let's do it. So we signed papers and just started working. I had a guy come down, a friend of mine. He runs the roofing division of Pure Light Solar. He came down and he's like, I think I can get you a new roof. I'm like, no. He's like, yeah, give me some time. And so we just kept ripping stuff out. And then about 6 months later, he called me up. He's like, hey, bro, got it.
No way.
I said, what? He's like, yeah, dude, I got the weld down stuff. I got the all the metal, everything you need. Just come down and talk to my guys and see if they'll put it in for you. Like, all right. So I brought some donuts down one morning and talked to the roofing crew, and they were just like, I'm in. And they came down for the next couple of weeks and re-roofed the place. And it's just been one thing after another. I mean, almost all the ramps are donated.
Oh, wow.
I should take you on a little tour.
Yeah. Well, even after this, if you want, you can, if you can do it now, go for it. That'd be fun.
I can. So let me just answer your question. Yeah. What we do right now, it's we're a nonprofit, but there's a couple people on the board, but mainly it's me doing stuff. And so right now it's only one day a week, unless we open it up for special stuff. Yeah. 5 to 7:30. It's free for the kids. Right around 6:15 or so, we have something for them to eat, either Domino's pizza or We've had people come down, they barbecue for the kids.
Oh, cool.
We got a guy coming down New Year's with a taco truck
Oh,
because we're going to do a
sick.
New Year's session. Yeah, it's fun. But so, you always, from my point of view, is like give someone, if someone's going to let me talk to them, give them something to do. Like give them some piece of pizza. Give them, And so it's free. Come at 5. We do a little Bible study, a little God talk for 20 minutes max. You're not required to stay. We have a lot of people that want to get up and leave, and you know what? That's fine. I was that guy. It's fine. But the one thing that these guys and gals hopefully hear is that they matter. And that's what I got from all the skate church stuff when I was growing up. Like, I didn't agree with it. I was just like, bleh. But one thing I couldn't argue with was that I mattered to those people. And then, and they would be like, well, you matter to God. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. But I could tell I mattered to them.
Yeah.
And so if we can do anything, just want to show these kids, like, you're not an accident.
Yeah.
Whatever. And then we skate till 7:30, and a lot of times we'll drive the kids home or whatever. And I want to keep it free because a lot of these kids have nothing.
Yeah. So 1 day a week, how come it's not more? Is it just more time? Because you've got this whole building sitting there, right, with this stuff in it? Or is that your office, or...?
No, it's, let's go take let me unplug you. We'll take a little tour. So, let me see if I can... Let's go out the front door. Well, actually, it's locked. But, so, this is the front. We're pretty right in town. Like,
oh, yeah.
We're getting the fencing up. A guy made me a deal when we got the fence to he would buy it and I'd just pay him back. But it turned out he needed some work done, so I just traded him work.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. You've got that skill to be able to trade that out.
Yeah, it's like everything's kind of come together. And then so the goal is to actually cover this whole outside and do a big indoor park out here.
Like an open air indoor park, or?
I'm not sure yet. I've got a lot of different ideas.
Yeah.
But like fire pits, and it's like a place for kids to hang too.
Yeah. That's a big thing. Like having, like I never went to the skate park to hang out because I'd always just be skating. But there'd be kids that, like, friends, you'd just be, I skated a bit. I'm just going to hang out and chill here.
Well, a lot of kids don't have any skill either when it comes down to it. I mean,
yeah.
There's always the kids in the group that they'll just never, their mind and their body just doesn't click with skateboarding.
Do you know what I think it is? Is there's also, like, you might get into skateboarding at 13, but your coordination comes in at 17. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't play table tennis to save my life. And then when I was like 25, I was stuck here in, not stuck, that's a bad word. I was here in Seattle, but I had...
Get in trouble.
Yeah. I was here in Seattle for like 3 months, and I was like, oh man, what am I going to do there at a table tennis table? So I would just like play and practice. And then my brain was like, oh, you can actually do this shot. And like, you know what I mean? Like my brain coordination sort of worked out.
Yeah. And there's... So we want to make it inviting for them too. Yeah. So when you walk in the front door, it's just a little gas station, and so in this corner,
that's sick.
There's just, we just put up curtains because the walls are all trashed, and I got to do some work there.
Yeah.
But that's where we all kind of gather. We just got check this out. We just got a whole drum kit.
Oh, that's so sick.
From the dump.
No way.
Yeah, I went to the dump, and this dude rolls up in this Subaru and just like, just throws the whole kit out. And I was like, thank you very much. And just put it in my trailer and then just set it up. So now they got kids coming down with their own instruments and stuff. And
so every skateboarder's had the idea of a skate park in their life. And I always thought it would be fun to do like a skate park where every Friday night, people could come like an open mic, and they could do a Friday night sort of like open mic, and that way they get to play there and practice, and they sort of like other people get to hear their stuff.
Yep, they're starting to loosen up.
Yeah.
I've been a youth pastor for years, and usually it takes about a year and a half or so for kids to finally loosen up and be like, okay.
How long's it been open?
About a year.
Oh, okay, cool.
We've been formed for 2 years, but actually open. Like, I wasn't sure how it was going to open, and then a buddy, he's like, hey, I got a little half pipe. You want it? And it's like, yeah. So he gave us his half pipe, and then we cut it down, made it 3 foot, and put LED lights under the coping so you can change the colors.
Oh, that is sick.
And stuff, just made it fun.
Yeah.
And
looks like a good transition as well.
Oh yeah, it is. It's an OC ramp.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So, but it was a 4 foot, so we cut that down.
Yeah.
And then let's see, that box. Let's see if I can point at it.
Yep.
He gave us that box, and then he gave us that. We refinished everything.
Yep.
And then we got a bank ramp right there, and then we put a little ramp on. Anyway, lots of stuff. Built this little vert ramp or a vert wall up to the ceiling, and then so I had a guy. He's a hardwood floor guy. He's like, hey, I got a bunch of hardwood flooring, so we just put some, made like a wall there.
Little accent wall.
And this guy donated like all these panels.
Yep.
These weird panels to put on the walls.
That's pretty sick.
So,
do the kids get in and help, like set it up, or is it just?
Yeah, they'll come early and help us mop and I actually hired 3 kids for my construction crew.
Oh, cool.
So I try to give them work, and just mainly it's just hanging out with them, like being around them. I've had a firefighter friend come down and invite them to come down to the fire station and come along for ride-alongs. Trying to get them, vocation stuff.
Yeah.
Help them in life, really.
Well, I think a lot of the stuff, because I grew up pretty poor in Australia, and getting access to try stuff is a big piece of it, I think. Like, I had no idea that I would ever live in America or I'd have any choice. And I think when you get access to stuff of like, oh, hey, you might get... You get to try out this firefighting stuff for a day, and you're like, oh my gosh, I just loved it. I love that feeling that guy... And you might be like, hey, that leads me down a path of... You may not end up there, but you might have a path that goes, hey, that kicked off this idea. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I fully love that.
Yeah.
So, what's the best trick you got in there for yourself?
For me, the best trick, truthfully, I think it's just getting all the way up on that vert wall to the ceiling. I mean, it's like 6 feet of vert or so. I don't know. It's fun. The problem is the older I get, the harder the concrete is.
Oh my gosh, I feel that pain so much.
My feet. It's my feet.
Oh.
After skating 20 years and construction 30 years, or
So what shoes do you wear when you skate?
They're like a Caballero.
Okay.
Half cab knockoff kind of thing.
Do you? So I get
with insoles.
Huh?
With insoles.
Yeah, I was gonna say the insoles of like it's called like pop cush or super cush or whatever they use for the Vans. I can't skate without those. Otherwise, my feet are just fried for the next 2 days.
It's funny because I don't mind rolling, sliding, head over heels. It can just. It's the running out.
Hard
of a
and
trick.
then the hard stop.
Yeah. The run. Yeah, I watch these kids running out, and I feel so old. I'm like, gosh, I just really envy you being able to run out of that trick and not have your feet hurt.
Yeah. I've got a glass ankle on my left ankle, so even this morning, I skate a bit, like here and there, and I've got my like selection of maybe 10 tricks still, but I've been playing a lot of pickleball, and yesterday when I did a hard stop, like we're talking about, and I was like, oh, that felt a bit funny. This morning I could hardly walk, on my foot. Now it's warmed up, it's better. So I think I have a bit of cartilage that might move a little bit. But but as a skateboarder, you've got so many injuries. You're like, if I just start here, I'm gonna have to get the next one fixed. We're all sort of working like that Mr. Burns scene where everything's sort of broken, but it sort of works together because pushing through the door at the same time.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. You know, and the kids, they like to see me skate and stuff, but for me, I love the culture, I love the kids, and I genuinely get excited for their victories.
Oh, me too. When I'm down the
it's
skate
just to be
park,
around 'em, yeah.
but I've got a question for you then. So, I love watching like the female skaters coming up now because it feels like they're hitting that 90s era of skateboarding where
You're gonna get in trouble saying stuff like that.
well, no, like because they've had such a late start. Like Alyssa Steeman was the first female pro, and that was in the 90s, right? So then it was a long time until there was another pro that was a female pro that was like doing extremely well.
Pro is in how it's a board.
Pros in pro skateboarder that's making their living doing that.
I didn't.
There was like
yeah.
there was a Dogtown Z Boys, but she was more part of the culture. Like Alyssa Steeman was like video parts. She's like out there hammering away. And I remember the conversations when I was a kid, and the people would be like, "Oh, I could do those tricks. She shouldn't be proud." I'm like, "Yeah, but she's the only female doing it right now. Like, what other girl skateboarders around?" And when I grew up, there was this legend skateboarder in my town, Fremantle, Carmen, and she was such a great skateboarder. And like she was, like when you'd skate, you wouldn't be like, "Oh, she's a female skater." You'd be like, "She's a skateboarder. Like she's doing nollie front tail slides on the this like nice little ledge." And I still remember seeing that trick, and I learned that from seeing her do it.
Right.
And so when you get to this point now, and she has owned her own skate brand, she's helped raise up the level of skateboarding in Australia, of female skateboard in Australia, in Western Australia, where we're from, to such a degree that the girl that just won the X Games for Best Trick, the youngest one, Mia, she was one of the skateboarders that is now coming out of Fremantle or Western Australia because of Carmen. So when I say that, like the 90s skateboarding, it's like the energy is there when everyone was like learning these tricks fresh and like they're getting that energy. Like now you're getting people like the Udos and all that. Tricks are amazing, but they're almost uncomprehensible. Like on, oh, hey, I'm doing a nollie 270. I'm landing on a back tail and I'm 270 out down a handrail. That doing a backside tail slide down that would have been an ender for Heath Kirchart. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so you've got this energy that's like, oh my gosh, there's something really about it. But I was just sort of wondering if you noticed that sort of stuff. So as you can tell, I'm so excited because there's that like energy when like about skateboarding, about learning and progressing to that new trick.
Well, okay. So what you guys do on your show, it seems like you interview a lot of people who are into the arts. And
I interview anybody I can get my hands on, to be honest. I just love all different. That's why the conversation here about your religion and stuff like that, I'm totally happy to have that conversation with, but I want to have a conversation. As long as they're not dickheads and they're not bigots, I'm not going to come and have like a fucking racist on here and be like, "Oh yeah, let me listen to that." You know what I mean? But
oh gosh, the things I want to say, but I just don't.
You can say whatever you want, but
no, that's the thing, dude. I am a smart aleck. You know what? That's one of the things that I love about doing what we're doing. We don't have to fit into anything. And it was religious people who killed Jesus. He didn't fit into their theologies. He didn't fit into their traditions, and they couldn't take it. And he kept calling them out. But so like it's funny because we were talking, 20 kids sitting around, and these are all skate kids. These aren't like youth group kids or whatever.
Yeah.
These are all real kids, and they're my friends too. But we're sitting around and we're just talking about like how God knows everything. Everything. He sees everything. And this one kid, I won't say his name, he's like, wait a second. All these other kids around him. He's like, you're telling me God's watching me jack off? he could see that? And all the other kids are like, and excuse me. And I'm like, well, not only does he see you doing that, he sees what's in your head and what you're doing it too. And I said, why don't you share with us what's going on in your head when you're doing that? And he's like, and I'm like, no, I'm just kidding. And the kid just looks back and he goes, oh man, I'm fried. And everyone just kind of giggled. But it's neat that we have the freedom here to be real people, to ask real questions. And I kind of nag on the guys. I'm like, come on, you guys are just giving me such sissy questions. Like, where's the stuff that you're pissed about? Like, how could God do this? Or what about that? Or how come this? Like, give me some questions. And they'll be like, just kind of sitting there, just nibbling their pizza and stuff. Tell you what, though, it's the ride homes.
Oh, yeah.
The rides home, I mean. And when one kid, actually, it was the kid that backhanded my truck. I was giving him a ride home. He lives on the house. And he just said to me, he goes, okay, man, okay, how does this really work? Because my life is a mess. I'm in and out of juvie. My mom and dad just got divorced. I know God's real. I want in. Like, I want to live right. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, and I said to him, I said, what, you getting all religious on me? He goes, I don't know how to say it. And I'm like, no, I'm just playing. I said, we just started talking a little bit, and then he got just enough, and he's like, okay, I got to go. It's like, all right. You know, it's between them and God anyways. It's not up to me to convince somebody. My only job is like, here's what it says. You guys are already having conversations with God. Even if you're pushing him away, I'm just coming in at a certain point of your conversation, but this is between you and him. And to let the chips fall where they may. All that to say, why did you bring up the whole girl thing with the girl skateboarders?
What? Sorry?
You're like, your question was like, how do I feel about like the girls and the new tricks and stuff?
Just the girl skateboarders of just the whole scene is just amazing, how they're growing up.
Yeah. So the scene now, okay. So the skateboarding itself is, like you said, it's off the charts.
Yeah.
And I mean, whatever anyone may think, I'm gonna say it anyways. A lot of the skate videos and stuff, it's boring.
I think
like you're just like, oh, that was insane. That was insane. Oh my gosh. Oh my. And after a while, you're like, where's the art? Where's like the search for animal chin, where they're showing like, or like Lance Boughton's getting chased by a bulldog and pushing him off his board, and then where's the skits? Where's the art? Where's the fun? It's just like trick after trick after trick after trick after trick. Like,
I think the European ones have a little bit more of that. Not so much the skits, but a little bit more, and that sort of old New York skate feel, where it's like got that sort of culture embedded into it a little bit. But I do agree, there's not that a piece where you're like, hey, let's show our true creativity. We're not just doing this as. That's where the sport versus culture comes in. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like even the Thrasher, when they just recently, Jamie Foy got Skater of the Year, so they painted someone that looks like the bronze statue for Skater of the Year, and they're like skate him all like, obviously it's in clips, but they're skating as if he's delivering it to him, and I'm like, that's gold. That's what we want to have.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why so many people are attracted to skateboarding. Is because it's like raw, artistic output.
Yeah. Oh, no, I fully agree with that. I love playing pickleball and I'm competitive, but oh, do you? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I never look up pickleball. Like it's either art or skateboarding, and that's all ladies. Like that's all it is. Like on my Instagram, that's just if pickleball shows up, it's because some random I don't know what it is, but it would,
Because Siri's listening to you.
yeah, exactly. And I'm
Yeah.
like, but other than that, I rarely skateboarding just inundates my life. I can just a feel of it, the click, click, click sound. If I hear someone go by, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're living the dream right now. The girls that are
Yes.
learning like the tricks that I could do, and I think I relate with that stuff because the Utos, the Nigers, all that, like that's way beyond my best skills I've ever had. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's amazing to watch, and I'm like, I can appreciate, like, I still love watching that, but seeing where the young women are sort of coming up and having like that skate sessions where I'm like, oh my gosh, you just did a 360 flip manual. I was like, I was so close to getting that one time, but I just never got it. And I'm so stoked
Right.
you did, because I know that feeling must be amazing.
Yeah, and you can genuinely feel and with somebody else's victory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of just getting straight jealous, like, oh yeah, but their style's whacked, or they dragged their toe.
Oh, I honestly, like, I haven't done that in so long. There's other people, there's so many skaters, like P-Rod, great skateboarder. His style's not for me, right? Great skateboarder, I appreciate everything. He's like too clean, like, you know what I mean? But
Right,
Luan
okay.
Oliveira, and I'm like, oh, dang, like he's still so clean, but there's so much raw energy in his, like, he's so fast and that. And all I think about when I'm like that, I'm like, P-Rod's just not for me. But there's other people that would just love his style, you know what I mean?
Isn't that funny? That's just funny about us. Like, you don't pick your style. It's just how your body moves,
Yeah.
and like everything clicks.
And it's
we're
fun-
like, I don't like his style. You're
Yeah.
like, that dude's freaking amazing.
Yeah. Like Nigel Houston, I'm like, that guy kills it. He's out there skating in the streets. He's winning contests. Would I go and buy a pair of Nigel shoes based on him and want to look like his style? No. But can I appreciate that guy's fucking killing it on a board? Fuck yeah. Like,
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
You know what? Oh, sorry.
oh no, go for it. I love talking about skating.
I was going to say, what changed for me is skateboarding, because I was the little grommet kid, and I wanted to go pro, and I wanted the recognition, and that one of my friend Andy I was telling you about, he was just always so good and so smooth that people would just gravitate towards him, and I always had this kind of like, what about me mentality, and it's funny because it's actually a curse. It's a curse to live that way.
I agree.
And living up in Portland, just skating with just incredible people, what happened is one day I was down at Burnside, and it was one of those days that my mind just wasn't connecting with my feet.
Oh, yeah.
And I just felt like you just feel like you're like floating, and you're like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
No matter what it is. So, and I couldn't pump right. I don't know if it was my bearings or just what. And there was a couple guys like kind of laughing because I was pumping to get out of the stuff, and I just couldn't keep it together.
Well, Burnside's also
And-
hard because it's all like DIY. So like sometimes where the pump
yeah.
is, there's that little lumps and stuff like that. But the locals had that all dialed.
Well, they got bigger wheels, and they had, anyway. So, Red showed up. Red's the guy that pretty much built Burnside.
Yeah.
And Red's a pretty gnarly dude. Like he's a concrete layer guy. He was always older than I was, so he's probably like 10 years older than I was. Anyway, so Red shows up, and I met Red back when Burnside was just a couple little banks that were 2 feet tall underneath the Burnside Bridge. I mean, it was nothing. So Red shows up now, and he shows up, and he's kind of like a local celebrity. He's got his dirty old flannel shirt on, some ripped jeans. He's got steel toe boots where the steel toes are, he just got done pouring concrete.
Yeah.
He comes up, he's got this ratty old board, his big old nasty wheels. The board's just chipped out. I think he even had rails on his board. He leans back on top of the quarter pipe on this chain link fence that you don't even want to look at. But he built it. He knows how strong it is, so he just leans back on it and he's just kind of just chilling on it.
Yeah.
Like And then boom, he gets up, grabs his board, drops in, and everyone just kind of stops. And he goes up to there's like a pyramid thing by the bowl.
Yep.
So he goes up ready to hit it and just loses it. Hits the ground, rolls, grabs his board, jumps on it, keeps pushing, goes up, just this big, like layback grind. And then he comes down, loses it again, and just keeps running, grabs his board, jumps back on it. And I sat back and I'm like, dude, this dude is just skating.
Yeah.
He's just skating. He doesn't give a rip about did he land that trick smooth or clean or style. Is he looking good in front of everybody? He's just skating. Mm-hmm. And I sat back and I just said, Adam, just skate. And it was from that day on, skateboarding became so fun. And dude, we would take buses up to the top of the hills in Portland and just go as fast as we could.
Oh,
just bam, all in garbage cans and picnic tables, and just like it no longer was like trying to prove anything. We were just like a motorcycle gang. It was crazy fun. And that's when everything changed. And that's what I'm trying to give these kids, like, it's not wrong to want to get sponsored, and you still see the same like nitpickiness, but man, if you guys will just skate, you'll actually, that recognition will come to you, but it's easier to deal with because you're just skating.
Tonight I wish I did. So I was a manager of a skate shop, and as every, I feel like skater is at some point. And
So funny.
back in this little town where I really wish, instead of like, we had another skate shop in the small town. It wasn't big enough for really two, but it was like, it automatically, especially in the 90s, sort of pitted each other against each other.
Yep.
And I think if we had the foresight, we should have been like, hey, let's all make a town videos together and let's all film, and every 6 months we put out a video, we have it hosted, and that to me would be worth way more. And I wish I did more of that stuff back then. Like, we'd film videos and stuff like that, but mind you, VHS tapes and all that. But
Oh yeah.
it was a lot of hard work. But we were always like, oh, we're filming this, we're not showing you, we're not doing this, like sort of thing. It was like annoying. Anyway, Adam, we're about an hour and 32, so we're gonna pump through the next questions. Okay, I know we got sort of stuff into it, but I do love the skate park you got set up. I love what you sort of got going on there. So I'm going to pump through these questions, but we can get sidetracked as well, because that's what normally happens. I just want to give room for these questions as well.
No, you edit this stuff out, right, for like your show? Because that's a long show.
Yeah, sometimes. But I don't want to... I would hate to take away something that might be a part of your story. You get what I mean? So if I edit something out and it's like, oh shit, that was really important to me that I said that, then I would hate for that to happen. But
You do you.
no, I don't want to. But that's my theory with everyone, not just you, but just on everyone's sort of story. Unless there's a story where like it sort of went flat and we're like, I can just take that chunk out and we get there.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's usually on my end that I'm usually babbling on. All right. What's your favorite mythical creature?
Really? Mythical creature? I mean, the first one that pops into my head is the, what is that bird? Lion.
A
thing?
griffin?
A griffin, yeah.
A bird lion. Okay, yep. Oh, my phone
But-
keeps... There we go. All right, a griffin. What do you do to let off the steam yourself? Do you just get on the board and skate?
I just sit and pray.
Yep. You got me for a second there. I was like, oh, okay.
This one's flat.
Yeah.
To let off steam. I'll tell you what. So I come down here. This is only about 5-10 minutes away from my house. I'll drop my kids off at school, and then I just make an excuse to come down here.
Yeah.
Whether it's just office work or make phone calls or read my Bible or just I just like to be here.
Oh, cool.
It's fun because I can just yell in here too, or you
Yeah.
can turn the music up and just or you play the drums, or it's just it's like a huge office that's just rad to be at. And so sometimes I sneak down here.
I love it. If I had that place, I would as well. I'd literally turn it into my office and just be like, I've got a skate park, and I'd probably build a pickleball court somewhere, and then I'd just be like, in my dreamland.
Well, that's the goal too. The goal is when we go outside, is to pretty much clean everything out of here. Probably keep the half pipe.
Yeah.
But then make it like video games and office space and clubhouse.
It'd be also interesting if you could have like video editing, like a computer where they can be like, hey, come in and like let's do a film and like show you how to edit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. We're pretty much, I mean, this exists to try to just help these young men and women just grow up. And
well, you're in
enjoy.
early stages, right? There's a lot of growth to go.
Oh, yeah. We have there's a few little grants and there's some money trickling in, but we pretty much just fund the whole thing.
That's awesome.
So no one can tell me what to do. Serious.
If you could travel back in time, which period would you go to?
Back in time. Well, so would it be traveling in the same place back in time, or?
Oh, like that's an interesting point. Like you're sitting right here and you travel back to this point in time. No matter, you can go. It's your question. You can be whatever you want.
All right. Truthfully, I would just like to go back to like the 90s.
Oh, okay.
If I could still have that body, if it was me going back to the 90s and be like, well, this sucks. I just need to get a job,
Yeah.
But if I could go back to that era, because I was thinking the other day, like my great grandma, she was born in the late 1800s, and she's died, of course. But I was just thinking, gosh, man, she grew up when it was horse and buggy and all dirt roads, no indoor plumbing. She saw airplanes come into existence. I mean, she saw people that were riding horses for everything to jumbo jets flying around the world.
It's wild, right? That like
in
100
one
years
lifetime.
of like industry, that would be insane.
So from the beginning of time up to her childhood, everyone pretty much relied on horses, animals, and all of a sudden in one lifetime, the world has exponentially changed.
Yeah.
And so just thinking about going back to all those times of horse and buggy and stuff,
I think about when people are like, oh, the Wild West, and I'm like, fuck that. I feel like I'm catching some sort of disease just sitting on a toilet, flies around everywhere. The only people that had it good then was like anyone that lived on an island that you could just go be like in Hawaii.
Well, no, because you had the kapu system in Hawaii, and they were, the king could be like, I want that woman, so you're dead. They'd kill you.
Oh, yeah,
and
fair enough. I'm more meaning that like the
humans.
life that I would just be sitting in on the ocean. It's going to be warm, and I can get fish. Like there's plenty of that where I don't have to raise cattle. I don't have to like go and find food for them and all that stuff. The Wild West just seems way too much.
The Wild West is definitely Hollywoodized.
Yeah.
What I do appreciate about that time period is like when you read the journals of people that lived during that time. There's this one kid who wrote a book. I can't remember the name of the book, but he was talking about they would be taxed. You'd be taxed on how many windows were in your house. So they would build like these houses, but put bottles in the walls, and that's how you get light into the house.
Wow.
And so this kid was writing this journal for like his 10th birthday. It was a big deal because his dad actually cut in a window in his bedroom. So now he's got like an actual window.
That's crazy.
And then he was hired by his neighbors. He's like 12, hired by his neighbors to come and buck hay and work on their farm for the whole summer. And his payment was he got a whole big drum, cedar or applewood drum or whatever, of apple cider. And the best part was they got to actually keep the barrel.
Oh, wow.
Like, that was a huge deal to be able to keep the barrel.
My kids just over Christmas, one of them got an Xbox and was like, he was super stoked. And I'm like, yeah, but imagine, like I say sometimes, like, and I probably use this now, but imagine if you only got a barrel and be stoked on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
but to think about it, I mean, that at that point, survival was part of life. Like, we don't necessarily think about survival.
No.
We think about paying bills.
Well, I think we also think about, like, objects and, like, that. You get what I mean? Like, we are very, especially around here, and very consumerism. Like, oh, I've got the new iPhone, I watch all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not that I'm not a part of that. I'm definitely more a part of it than I would like.
Yeah. Yep. So that's, I think it's why it's important to expose my kids. Like, I went on a bunch of mission trips to, like, Honduras and stuff, and we built villages, and it's special, and you realize, whoa, not all of the world lives like this. Yeah. But the thing is, though, is by living like this, you miss out on a lot of life. Like, you miss out on building shelter or hunting per se. There's a lot that you don't get to do because it's already provided for you.
Yeah. I agree with that.
So the 90s.
The 90s, when you had to hunt for your skateboard. When was the last time you were surprised?
I was surprised when you got back to me and you're like, yeah, let's do a show. Well, I kind of came at you from left field, and, you had mentioned, like, hey, it's not really into too religious stuff because people get weird, people get pushy, and I know what you're saying. But then you came back and you're like, yeah, let's do it.
I always planned on, like, doing it. I just didn't want it to be a big thing of, like, hey, every single answer was going to be revolved around
the Lord.
Yeah.
It's the Lord.
Yeah. Like, you don't have anything. Yeah. But can you do a handstand?
Yeah, not for long, but
yeah.
Still got muscles.
I could not do a handstand to save my life. I never have been. Even when I was at my fittest and I was, like, surfing all the time and that, I would just go up and keep going. There was no holding up.
Yeah, I was kind of there too. My wrists, like skateboarding, I really hurt my wrists.
Do you know what? Is out of all that, like, every skateboarder spraying their wrist and everything, I was at a bachelor party and I was being the soccer goalie and I was being, like being funny, and I'm, like, giving everyone nicknames, and I'm pretending to do karate whenever they kick a ball. Last ball of the game, kicked by, like, a 9-year-old girl, and I punched the ball, and I just feel my wrist go, tweak. And ever since then, I cannot push my wrist past there, like this one here, all the way back, this one here, right there, just all pain.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I went to the doctor, and they're like, yeah, there's something in there, but nothing that we should do a surgery on. So I was like, okay.
Those 9-year-olds.
I know. Brutal. Last place you traveled to?
The last place I traveled. It was Newport, Oregon, on the coast.
Yeah.
My buddy Luke there, he's a pastor there. Just this rad dude, big old beard, and just pumped on life and people. And somebody got saved at his church, this really wealthy guy, and the guy just sold his house, and he had this super immaculate 95 Jaguar convertible, and he's just like, you know what, I just don't want to live this life anymore. I don't like the attention. He just gave that car to my buddy Luke's church. And then so Luke was like, well, what do you do with this? So they raffled it off, and the guy who won the raffle was like, oh, that was fun, but I don't need this car. So he just gave the car back to Luke. And then
that would be funny if it keeps getting raffled off and people keep giving it back.
Well, Luke's like, oh, well, what are we going to do with this now? And he went kind of to his board, which are our old friends too. And he's like, what do we do? And they're like, well, should we raffle again? And Luke's like, I don't know. It's kind of played out here. Like, I want to give it to Adam over at Base Plant Ministries in Medford. And the other guys were like, are you just saying that because you're biased and he's your friend? And Luke just says, yeah. And they're like, okay.
Oh, God.
So he called me up. He's like, hey, come over and get this car, and then come tell the church what you're doing and stuff over there. So I took one of the skate kids from here, my daughter, and we drove over there and picked up this Jaguar and spent a couple days there. And Kyle, one of the skate guys that worked for me, he drove the car home. He was going like 110 down the freeway, convertible down, just like, yeah. I'm like, don't get a ticket. It's not even insured under us yet. But so yeah, we went to Newport, brought that back, ended up fixing it up, and then we had to do some tune-ups and sold it and pay some bills and keep going.
Oh, that's awesome. That's wild. That's very generous of those people.
Yeah.
On a lot of different levels as that went down, you know what I mean?
It was definitely out of the blue.
It
was
all right,
fun.
So we've got 2 more questions. Ready?
Yep.
What are 3 things that you were grateful for?
I truly am grateful that I get to be one of those wacky Christians.
Okay.
Like, I'm so grateful. Like, I wake up, I was just reading the Psalms this morning, and it's just like King David just writes, my heart just explodes, and I don't even know how to thank you for it. And I'm like, I get you, bro. So that's number 1. Number 2, of course, is my wife and my kids. And then number 3 would be that I get to be part of this ministry and get to be part of these young people's lives as they're growing up. It's invigorating to just be in tandem with them.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's interesting that you won't know you may never know the impact you've had on these children. Like, they might move somewhere else and they might have a fantastic life and not be willing to go back and say thank you like you were going to your mate Aaron's parents. And so, sorry, my dogs are going like wrestling in the background because they're bored. But it's such a crazy thing of like that impact that you could spread out into the world of just with that positivity and just seeing that they're worth. That's, I think, pretty amazing. I like to think I'm always, if I'm ever at the skate park or I'm at pickleball and someone like needs a hand, or like, oh yeah, I'll play with that person if they're not a good, or I'll go and when I'm skateboarding, I'm like, hey, I see you're trying this trick. I'm an old skateboarder, so I can't do these tricks anymore, but I know how it works. So maybe just before you're about to do that, rotate your shoulders this way a little bit, and they'll get the trick and they'll be like, oh my gosh, thank you. Like, or the parent might come up to me and be like, oh, thank you so much. And it's just those little things. I'm like, maybe that would take out a bit further on.
Well, I see it as a 20-year plan.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much how it's worked. Like, the stuff, like the people that I've worked with, kids and stuff, 20 years ago, now I see them and they're like, oh my gosh, dude, I wonder what happened to you. Bro, do you remember when you used to do this with me? Like, It's like, dude, it changed my life.
Oh, yeah.
Really? You should pay me for it. Is there any monetary gain in that? I'm just kidding. Hallelujah, brother.
All right.
But yeah.
Last question. You have to wear a t-shirt with a slogan on it for a year. What does it say?
You're just waiting for something religious, aren't you?
Well, I fear it's going to be pretty fitting, but that's your world. You live it. That's your thing.
If I had to wear a T-shirt that, probably it would say "You matter," and underneath in quotes it would be Jesus.
Oh yeah. Cool.
Because people do.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what the whole Bible is about. Is God reaching out to His people and giving them life. I mean, that's pretty much the whole thing. And then you just see the fumbling and and through all that you see like, wow, God, you truly are gracious to us. Because if you gave us what we actually deserve, there just wouldn't be anyone left. So, you matter.
You matter.
Jesus.
Well, Adam, that's the 10 questions. Thank you so much for being on here, and thanks for reaching out to make this happen, and thank you for the great discussion. I know that there was some pushback from me and everything like that, and that I'd have felt uncomfortable in some ways, but I think it's always great to have a discussion that's not got any like malice towards it. To me, I don't care what you do, and I feel the same way back this way. So,
well, hey man, I appreciate it. I had a blast. This was fun.
I did as well. I'm stoked on the skate park as well, to be honest. That I can only imagine being a young skater and having that little spot to come and sit around, talk shit, watch skate movies up there, and then go skate.
Yeah,
that's the dream.
Or just come get some free pizza.
Well, free pizza, like that would be the dream. I'm gluten free now, so like unless you got some gluten free pizza, which it's just not the same. It's not the same.
No. Gluten free, yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, that's a whole different thing that's come about.
Tell me about it. I was like pizza, bread, Weetabix, like everything that had in Australia, everything that had gluten in it was going down this hatch. I moved to America and I'm like, oh, I'm getting all these headaches. What's this about? Stop eating gluten. I was like, oh, the headaches are gone. That's great. Have a little bit of gluten. Bang, headache back. Yeah.
Sure. You think it's our wheat and grain and stuff?
I have heard many times that people that are gluten intolerant, bad here, they'll go to Europe and then they'll be able to eat over there because it's not as glutinous or whatever. I don't know how it works. So
I wonder if it's the pest. That's what they're saying is like it's the pesticides and stuff.
Yeah, I hear it's how much gluten-based stuff that they force into it, but I don't know shit really. I just know that it hurts when I eat too much of it, like so.
Mm-hmm. So all right, now we're getting to the brass tacks.
So in a couple of weeks, there's a couple of episodes before yours, and I'll get a drawing out to you as well. That will be based on our conversation and stuff here, and I hope you really enjoy it. And then you,
yeah,
and you can do whatever you want with the drawing. So
okay,
yeah. So if you want to
put it on a T-shirt or something,
yeah, if you want to put on T-shirts and that's there, that's really cool. As long as if you go to like do something and that like you sort of just give recognition of whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's yours. Do with it as you will. Live your best life.
Donated from Maddie. P.S. He doesn't love Jesus yet.
That yet part's the worst part on there for me.
I know. I'm just trying to trigger.
No, that's good. I liked it. I like a good kick.
What was I going to ask you? Oh yeah, I don't know if you've gotten on our Instagram.
No, but I'll follow, and then what I do is, have I followed you from our thing? I usually don't follow until the conversation. To be honest,
you don't know if you want to follow. That's funny.
Well, this is a weird thing. Is that it's not because of you. It's everybody, and it's not because of the interview. It's because if I ever got big enough, and then people are like, oh, he recently just followed this person, I think they're gonna be on, and it's like I'm thinking too far down the future, and so I'm like, that's the only reason I don't.
Okay. Right.
But
yeah, I don't know if I mean I'm following you, but I don't know if you follow.
Let me check.
But
Oh yeah, there we go. I got gotcha. Yeah, that's the only reason I don't follow. It's anyone. I'll be like, hey, we're sorting it out, and then once we have the interview, then I follow, and then it's like to... it says usually once the interview's even going up, like, so that way people don't sort of guess, oh, who's the next interview? Oh, they just followed this person.
Oh, okay.
So try and keep people in the secret sort of thing. But
Heck yeah.
just a mind thing that I do for no reason. Yeah.
Well, if you get on there, I make a bunch of little just cheesy videos and stuff. You can see more of kind of what we do here.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'll follow along, and then what I do on this side is I'll like post things like I'll from previous guests because I'll scroll through and doom scroll like we're talking, and I'll be like, hey, I'll post that and be like, someone that's from season 1, episode 3, they just did this, and I'll post that up there and be like, hey, this previous guest did this, and so for the first 2 weeks it's focused on you guys, and then I sort of like spatter it through that. Sure. Unless it's Christmas, and then I'm just like exhausted and don't touch it at all.
Yeah, you gotta have something to put out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
No, it's awesome what you do. I appreciate it, and just the aura that you put out. It's awesome.
Thank you, mate. It's a great conversation. If I'm ever going through Medford, I'm stopping in to skate the skate park. Bringing some extra padded shoes so that way I can slap my feet around.
Yeah. I'll be offended if you don't.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. If you're ever up this way, hit me up, and then we'll get together and have a coffee or whatever.
I love it.
All right. Cool, Adam. I'll get that illustration out to you.